Well, anyhow, we're still waiting for this thing, and I just happened to look. I don't know how many other guys in my group looked and saw it, but the command was given, according to all the history in the books, because there was a shift in the wind pushing the ship towards us. And they wanted the man in that gondola with the engine to give it full throttle from being many, many hours on neutral, neutral, but going at its slowest speed, idling in other words. And diesels do build up carbon. And all I saw was sparks and flames coming out of this engine. 2 seconds later, more or less 2 seconds, we saw this ball of fire.
It bursts into flames. Get it started, get it started. It's flashing, and it's flashing terrible. Oh my, get out of the way, please.
We just turned and ran just as fast as we could. What direction, I don't know, but whatever direction we thought was the best. And we ran for quite a few feet until the heat was gone. Then we turned around, of course. And by that time, the ship was all on the ground. Still burning, of course, in flames. So we naturally walked back. And by the time we returned to the ship, people asked me, did you help anyone? Well, by the time we returned to the ship, all that had been done. There wasn't anyone to help. And we were just merely, as I say, survivors. I honestly thought that it was the end of my life. I really didn't think I was going to make it. The heat was just so bad. And it did burn my hair. And another fellow in my group who I knew told me later that he literally did have burns on his neck. And one man in our crew was a much older man than I was. His name was Hageman, and he was from Lakewood. And he was a rather heavy-set fellow. And he didn't make it. He stumbled, they said, because in the back of the ship there was literally a railroad. A little car runs along, and when the ship settles down, they connect it to this little heavy-weighted railroad car that would shift in the wind as a ship. It would be the anchor, so to speak, of the stern of the ship. Well, we knew those railroad tracks were there, and my first thought was, Buchanan, don't trip on those tracks, because you're running at such a speed and you could easily trip on him. Well, apparently he did, so they think. And he didn't. They did take him to the hospital, but he was so far gone they couldn't bring him around. So then, as I said, we walked back to the ship, and my concern wasn't so much about the survivors, because I knew that was all taken care of. You could see that, but there was a terrible odor. And still hot, the thing was still burning. The diesel oil, for instance, was burning, and some of the fabric and so forth. So my main concern was my brother and my cousins. How are they? Are they safe? So we finally found each other, and so by that time it was pretty late, it was dark actually. And we decided we better go home, and for fear that our parents would be concerned about us. We thought they would have known all about it, Well, of course, we did get home and no one knew anything about it. In those days, people didn't listen to the radio during the day, and there was no newspapers coming out with extras or anything, and no television, of course. So my mother didn't know a thing about it. So they more or less, all of my cousins came to my house, because we had a pretty good sized home, but downstairs my father literally had a bar, private bar, and my cousins knew you could get a drink there. So it became a gathering. The whole family got together, and some people found out that Bob Snyder, who was one of the recruiters of the landing crew, the newspaper people found him there, and they were calling on the phone all the time. So it was quite an affair. I got, frankly, kind of emotional about it, and got tired of talking and the drinking, and I just went upstairs. And I was quite upset over the whole thing. But I do attribute the safety of all of us in our group is that we were soaking wet. Had we not been subjected to heavy rain and our clothes were dry, I think we would have had a lot more damage. And